Lots of folks are talking right now about athletic cuts in the Albuquerque school system and at UNM. University officials announced recently that they are cutting the UNM ski team. Coaches and student athletes say they weren't warned in time to look at other options like transferring or applying for other jobs. And APS announced plans to cut competitive middle school sports. Now, of course, this is all in the context of funding cuts in recent years from the state for K-12 schools. And Governor Martinez vetoed all funding for higher ed in the budget this year, as you know. There's still a lot of uncertainty and details that need to be worked out in budgets for schools and universities, but we wanted to spend some time talking about how New Mexicans are taking in these announcements. Our line opinion panelists are ready to jump in on this one. I'm joined at the table by former state representative Janice Arnold-Jones. Harry Van Buren is here. He's a professor at UNM's Anderson School of Management. Laura Sanchez-Rivey, she's one of our regulars. She's an attorney at Cuddy & McCarthy, LLP. And another regular, Sophie Martin. She's an attorney and editor of DukeCityFix.com. Janice, difficult to be a school administrator right now. The Santa Fe Public Schools are considering consolidating schools. That's got the city in a royal. We've got, but sports is the issue here. In the chessboard play of all this, where do we sit now that this has been put on the table because the entire city's lit up on this one right now? Was this the right tactic for APS?
Well, it's certainly an effective one. It is not a new one, not by any stretch. Even from the time that I got to come back to New Mexico, I think this is maybe the third or fourth time they've done this.
Wow.
But it is effective. Are you spun up? Yes, you are. Is the community upset?
That's right.
Yes, they are.
That's right.
And when you talk about middle school sports, I know people are saying that they've got basketball and baseball and football. No, they have volleyball, track, and basketball.
Thank you.
Small program. There are other programs, but did they know? Is this political? Yes. Is there a problem? Yes.
Gotcha. Is this the way to fix that problem?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things APS is dealing with now with all the criticism and everybody up in arms is that it is just a plan right now.
Gotcha.
And this is one of the more troubling ones, I think, for a lot of parents with students who are in those age ranges. But I think there's also a lot of other, a lot of other things that they're considering doing. And they've emphasized that this is really a plan right now, given that they are facing, they're needing to make some decisions in case they don't have the funding that comes through. And I think in that way they're trying to be proactive, and it's not unlike what a lot of other schools around the state are doing. And I should add that my firm represents a lot of school districts, and so we're aware, not APS, but we're aware of the type of budget problems that they're facing, and this is just something that's hitting every school district around the state. I think what's troubling though here, and I think it is an effective tool, is they're using it to scare a lot more people. But it's not unlike what the governor's doing by scaring a lot of people that universities will not have any funding either. And I think as you take a step back and you consider this is like a very twisted arms race that we're having, right? Where everybody's sort of using whatever political tools they can to frighten people, and it's really just driving up a lot of anxiety among folks. I think in general, my personal opinion is to cut middle school sports is a terrible idea. That for me, it was such an important part of my life growing up. In rural New Mexico, there was no way we could possibly afford a club sport. I don't even think we had them available at that point. So to have the opportunity to develop skills at that age that were really important later in life was crucial. And I just can't imagine a situation where students don't have that opportunity.
That's a good point. I like that use of the wording, twisted arms race. I like that a lot. That was interesting. I'm going to get to the ski team here in a quick second, but continue on at middle school sports. Is this a sign of bottom? That's my question. Is this a sign we have hit a bottom in this argument between the two protagonists, so to speak? I mean, where do we go from here, in other words?
I don't think so. And I think to Janice's point, this isn't the first time that we've seen this type of argument over this type of program. Bottom would probably include things like AP. It would probably include...
That's been whispered.
I know. I know. But right now they're saying let's avoid cuts to advanced placement classes. I happen to think, though, that some of the stuff that's being put out there is deliberately shocking, but is shocking. And
what did you make of the governor's response to the middle school cuts? Is that a place she should be commenting? I guess that's my first question.
Here, I think, is with the problem with the governor's messaging right now. She has required cuts over multiple years. We've seen decreases in government funding for core state government functions. I mean, education being obviously one of them. And she has demanded cut, will not allow any new funding to come in. And so to say, oh, but not this one, I think looks quite disingenuous in that context.
Interesting there. Harry, I want you to pick up, of course, on middle school stuff, but we have the ski team here at UNM. It's interesting the feedback I witnessed on Facebook. They had one side of it saying, look, we have the ski team. Most ski teams are based back east where there is snow.
Right.
What are we doing? But then there's the other side that says, you know what? Honestly, we have a ski team that wins things. They do well. They get a GPA that people should be proud of. You know, and so how are we the vulnerable ones here when we're really not the issue, so to speak, in the bottom line? It's a tough one on campus, I'm sure. It's a difficult
It's a tough one on campus, and I think this is really following on to what happened with Coach Neal and the basketball team.
Right.
It really seems to me that this is the way that the athletics department is funding the buyout, is to just line item the ski team and fund the buyout in that sort of way.
Right.
In my experience, because I've had a bunch of ski team folks in my classes, they're some of the best students I've ever had.
I bet.
And the danger in focusing just on revenue sports, if we just focus on football and basketball, for example, then it's not about college athletics. It's about semi-pro athletics in a university setting. And I think that's a major issue. So the ski team, which has won our only national championship, really strikes me as the wrong place to cut.
What about the timing? I'm highly sensitive to this issue that folks have a right to complain. If you make this announcement before you even have a chance to transfer schools, if this is your thing that you ski, if you've been skiing since you've been 4 years old, and you have the ability to ski on a major college ski team, you can't just hang these people out to dry and not let them transfer somewhere. I mean, I get a funny feeling that they're going to pay a little bit at the university
Well,
for
the
this
problem is, as you point out, there was really no involvement. So the ski team found out about the decision that had already been made during a meeting, and it's too late for them to transfer. Think about the coaches who have been there for decades in the head coach's case. So it's really a failure of just involving people whose lives are just dramatically affected by this.
That's right. The coach is out in June. I mean, that's it. Your job's over.
Absolutely. Talk about disingenuous. The university said, we're going to save money because these are full ride scholarships. There isn't a single full ride scholarship. I thought that was very sad. But you're right. Harry, who's taught them management over there? It's not existent.
They can give me a call. I would be glad to chat with them.
Right. Janice, while I got you, I do want to follow up with the question I asked Sophie. What did you make of the governor's getting into the fight with APS and how they do these things?
I just, and perhaps my ear is becoming a little bit deaf to some of the governor's statements. I thought it was disingenuous, and it was late. And again, it looks like we're talking about now versus a budget that's coming up. But there are a couple of other things I want to bring up about this program. And so if this happens, if they have to make this choice, I want to assure you that I think if the schools are willing, the community will back them up. There are 17 track programs serving middle school students that are outside of the school system in Albuquerque. The problem has been APS has not welcomed the community. When I think about AYBL, they used to be able to use school gyms. They're hardly able to use that now. And so I think that the community would stand up and help do this, including those students who cannot afford it. There are lots of programs out there. Is it my first choice? No, it's not. But as I'm making some digs in here, I was at Highland High School yesterday, and as you know, it has the poorest graduation rate, I think, in the state. And I just want to challenge APS. The casings are coming off the windows. If you want to make depressed students who are already depressed, make them be in a building that is substandard. I was so sad.
As someone who went to a falling apart high school,
sad.
I can't even begin to agree with you more. Interesting, Laura, when you think on going back to middle school sports here, where Janice was, the idea that we know sport helps learning. We know, do you know what I mean? We know these activities, I'll call them not sport, but activities. They really contribute to a student's well-being, your physical well-being. Is this where we start, or is it, again, the shock value that people know this, and if you take it away, it's going to be, a problem?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people know it, and I think it does hit you at a very important part. Your heart, your stomach, wherever you want to pick. But it just it hits home, and we're so we love sports. There are parts, there are schools in this state that absolutely love their local sports. A lot of rural areas that absolutely that's the pride of the town, and so I think it hits very, very hard for a lot of people. But the bottom line is, I agree with you. I do think not just activities, but sports also. I mean, it's a way for a lot of people, a lot of students who would otherwise be isolated,
Right.
and develop a lot of other problems to become more integrated into have a sense of place.
That's right.
And develop
Well said.
skills
That's
that are
right.
really going to help them. Again, I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't done, the volleyball and the basketball and the tennis and all the stuff that I did when I was growing up in a very small rural community where there weren't a lot of other opportunities.
Or
to
the
interact.
municipality is not supplying some of those things
And then
either. It
exactly.
comes down to the school.
It's
That's right.
worth it to say, I mean, Laura sort of touched on this, it's worth it to say that it's not just sports that we're looking at. Noises have been made about further cuts to arts programs,
right.
further cuts to music. These are also programs like sports that help students to stay engaged. I've got to go to school in order to participate in
right.
theater after school. I've got to, in order to be in the band, I've got to go to school. And so, I mean, I do see conversation out in the community from people who don't see it that way, who say, you know what, we just need to focus on academics. It seems to me that often those are the same people who say, and so let's cut teacher salaries.
Gotcha.
Let's cut administration.
But on that note, Harry, are schools potentially being transparent enough about where they want to cut and how they
Right.
can cut? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do we know enough about these places to say, okay, that's a logical place to cut?
Right, yeah. Well, we've seen this in Santa Fe, where there were protests against the elementary schools that are proposed to being cut. We saw that in the APS statement yesterday. I think there's a broader issue related to transparency with school districts, but the flip side of that is the public has to be engaged as well, too. So think about the school board elections that have participation rates in the low single digits. So you can hardly be the public and say, we want transparency,
Right.
and then don't show up when you're talking about school boards.
That's a good point. Have to end it there. Now, when we come back to the line, we will talk about legal action against Governor Martinez's recent vetoes.